Hey guys, thank you for watching the episode you're about to watch. I do have to say, this was the first one we've shot. We have had a few difficulties, so you will have a few moments where it will stop, it will just jump back in, and there may be a moment or two where we have to jump in and out from an iPhone. I promise it will not happen again, but I'm going to put this episode out and we're going to deal with the blows and we keep moving forward. Awesome, enjoy the episode. Welcome to the first installment of A Day in the Shoes. I'm your host, Hayden Binney, and today we have a very special guest, my best friend, the Vanilla Killer, Lord Riley Henner.
How are we doing, guys? Welcome in to the show.
I'm so happy you could come in. You've got such a busy schedule. I know you've got so much work constantly, always doing quotes. You're just a man of many projects, and it's really hard to get time where we can actually spend time together.
Yeah, no, it's not like we played Fortnite all week last.
No, we didn't do any of that at all. But speaking of work and obviously you being so busy, tell everyone at home, what do you do?
Right, so I own a company, Bush Boys Tree Removal. We remove trees. We come in, give you a quote. If you have trees causing you a problem, we'll come in, give you a quote. After about a week, we'll come in, cut it down, put it through the chipper. I'll take all your money, and then I'll go spend it on a trip in Thailand or Fiji.
And how is business?
Well, I just got back from a 2-week trip to the Philippines.
How was that?
It was amazing. Seeing their way that they live their life is completely different to us. It was very eye-opening.
How so?
They're very poor, and I say that in a nice way because they're the most happiest and overjoyed people I've ever met in my life. They've got nothing, but they have everything to give.
I've travelled a fair bit myself, and you do find the people that often have the less are willing to give you the most.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, was there a single moment on that trip that sort of stuck out at you as sort of it sort of brought you back to reality and sort of grounded you a little bit?
Yeah, there was multiple. One that definitely stood out was we were walking through the back streets of on the tropical island that we were on that just got affected by an earthquake. And
that was Malapascua, wasn't it?
Yeah, Malapascua. And there was this, he would have been 3 or 4 years old, and he was sleeping out on the street underneath a tarp because they were too scared to go back inside their building because of the earthquake, and their buildings are unstable, and a lot of the buildings fell down in the previous one, so they're sitting out front for protection. Anyway, I gave him what would be considered for us like $40 to $50, and I've never seen a kid so overjoyed with something so little for us, but something so he will be able to, with that money, they'll be able to eat for a month. And like I said, the kid was like 4 or 5, and seeing his face light up for that was, I don't know, it was just something that I could give out of nothing and see how much that meant to him. It was definitely an eye-opening experience.
Has that moment sort of changed sort of your direction of thinking or your beliefs since coming back?
If I'm being authentic in myself, not really. I believe they say different strokes for different blokes. That's their way of life, that's how they live. I'm definitely more conscious now of being ungrateful and taking things for granted, but I still know what the trajectory of my life is, and I know how I'm supposed to live my life, and I wouldn't say that seeing them in their position has changed anything like that.
Yeah, obviously bringing it back into stuff, and obviously we've got to go back to the point of what allowed you to go on that awesome trip to the Philippines, which is what you do for work and stuff like that. So obviously the business Bush Boys, can you sort of give us a bit of a rundown of what the journey's been like from starting a tree business from the absolute beginning, from doing your $200 trailer loads to now doing $20,000, $30,000 land clearing development jobs?
Yeah, so in case you don't know, Hayden was the reason why I started my business. I was living in my van at the time, and I didn't have any direction in my life. And Hayden said, why don't you just start mowing some lawns and doing some gardening jobs? And I didn't take it too seriously because it wasn't something that I really wanted to do. But I ended up borrowing my grandfather's trailer and my mum's chainsaw, and I put a post up on Facebook saying, $200. I'll come out, cut down your trees, chuck it in the trailer, and take it to the dump. And pretty much that post blew up. My first post, I've got well and truly over 120 comments on it. And everyone just wanted basic gardening and small trees to be cut down. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize the potential of one Facebook post. And so that kind of lasted for about 3 weeks worth of work. And I remember me and you, we would go to the ATM at the shops and we would count our money and then put it into the ATM and make sure that the ATM counted the correct amount of money that we gave it.
And God, did we think we were cool with the money. We thought we were the coolest and most richest kids there was.
We were making $2,000 a week at the age of 19, and we thought that was the coolest thing ever. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I learned a lot about myself, more than I realized I would in business. I learned my weak points. I learned where I want to give up, and I learned where I struggle with. I know that I've definitely grown as a person since starting this business. But the trajectory of the business and the trajectory of where I want my life to go aren't necessarily aligned. And so it's definitely something I see continuing, but I don't see it being the be-all and end-all of who Riley is.
Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think you're being a little bit humble in the fact you've sort of missed out a lot of...
Riley being humble?
I know, it's. I did not think I was going to have to say this, but... Okay, you started off borrowing a trailer, borrowing a chainsaw.
Yeah.
What equipment do you own now?
So I think we're onto our 5th truck. We don't have 5 consecutive trucks, but we've had up to 5 breaking and buying new ones. We're onto our 3rd chipper, our 2nd Bobcat front end loader. And yeah, we got a yard. We got as many chainsaws as you can poke a stick at. I don't think it's something worth really bringing up as an achievement. It's just a step in business. You gotta spend money to make money, I believe. And we're at a point now where we have spent our money, where we can consistently make enough money throughout the week to pay our bills and pay my staff and pay enough for me to go on holidays.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you there. I'm going to say it is an achievement what you've got to now, because we're going to get into the backstory and everything like that as to sort of what got you here. But how long have you had the business for?
2 years going into November, so almost 2 years.
Look, you might not like me saying this. We can bleep it out if you want me to. But you've got a young kid with a trailer, chainsaw, no degrees, no qualifications, none of that, decided, hey, I'm going to be Sunshine Coast best arborist, to now today, when you're up there in the pecking order and sort of are ruffling feathers with the big dogs of the industry.
Definitely.
I think there is something that you need to be proud of yourself from where it was. Remember, you taught yourself to climb. You had no idea how to climb. You would just be sitting there at Macca's late at night watching YouTube videos oh, bro, look at this new knot this guy's done. Look at this carabiner, I don't know, all the equipment, stuff like that.
Yeah. I definitely think that's due to our undiagnosed autism. I think both Hayden and I definitely have something
Very
wrong with
much
us.
so.
When I get obsessed with something, or when I'm learning about something, I become so deeply obsessed that I have to learn every single aspect of it to a point where it becomes sick. It's become sickly. I am so overly obsessed with learning about what I'm interested in. So it was almost impossible for me to not become fluent in the industry that I've chosen. It was impossible for me to not become successful and, like you said, start competing with some of the boys that have been in business for 10, 15 years because of how obsessed I get over what I'm interested in. And we're kind of taking a step away from that now. I've definitely taken a step out of Bush Boys compared to where I began, just focusing on who Riley is and who Riley wants to be in life. but I haven't found what I need to become obsessed in next. At the moment, it's just becoming the best version I can, becoming the best partner that I can be to my friends and my family, and becoming the best role model for people that, I don't know if you want to say look up to me or not, but there's definitely a demographic of young boys that I know that their parents say, hey, look at what Riley's doing. And yeah, I would say I'm a little bit of a role model to definitely some people, especially like in my church and in the youth group area. Like, yeah, my mum's Facebook posts have a lot of people making me look like I'm a pretty good person.
Now, you said something there which I want to come back to, but you said something a little bit earlier which I'd like to touch on now, that throughout the journey of business and stuff, it's taught you a lot of what you're not good at, a lot of your struggles and stuff like that. Do you mind sharing what you are not good at, what you struggled with?
Yeah, I am a very angry person. I struggle with anger. I still do to today, but I've noticed that having patience in a business is the make or break for achieving money. Having patience with your workers, having patience with equipment, having patience with your customers. Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm not strong on, but I'm definitely trying to work on much more. I think I've come a long way from when I began. But that's definitely, I think, a major factor of my, childhood and growing up in a pretty traumatic family situation. I've definitely brought that into my workforce. But yeah, that's something we're working on, is definitely working on the anger and learning to trust what God has for me and trusting in the journey. It's not about the destination, it's the journey. No matter how much, how cliche that is, it's true. Like, one day in the near future I will be a millionaire, but I'll be sitting back looking at the days where I was 19, working in a van and not having enough food and not having enough money in my bank account to be able to buy food, and having to steal from Coles and Woolies. Like, that is what got me to where I am today. So I think that's what's more important than becoming successful. That had nothing to do with your question, but that's just how
that's
my
completely
brain
fine.
works.
Like, you mentioned anger. You mentioned you
Yeah.
briefly touched on your upbringing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that is where this anger comes from?
I think it comes with unforgiveness.
And where's that unforgiveness coming from?
So we touched on this earlier, but the camera wasn't recording, but we're here again
Yes,
now.
guys, this is our second take.
So my father committed suicide when I was 7, and people say it's such an impactful moment of a young person's life, but I don't think it really was. I think it just, my grandparents stepped up and took the role of my absent father and filled that void that I guess was missing. So I never felt like I was, absence of, something was missing in my life. But my stepfather that came into my family, that's where all the anger came from. That was abusive, and it was abusive against me and abusive against mum, and made me feel as a 10 and 12-year-old boy that I was worthless. Made me feel that even though I had something to say, it wasn't heard. And so from that moment, it was kind of, okay, this is, like I said earlier, this is the Riley Hanna show. This is, it's only me who's got my back, So my whole teenage to early adulthood life, it felt like my back's against the wall and I'm throwing the first punch.
I mean, on our first take, we did touch base on sort of the whole thing behind the Riley Hanna show. You sort of have to, you feel like you have to have your own back because no one else is coming to save you. No one's going to come and help you and stuff.
Definitely.
But I mean, is there any part of you, is there that little boy inside of you that's sort of angry at his dad that you never got to experience what a lot of other people do get to have? And do you think there are thoughts and there are deeper things that you were sort of pushing down, which is sort of then coming up in other aspects of your life?
No, because like I said, my grandparents played a major role in raising me, and I was raised with that previous generation and their morals and how to treat people with respect and how to carry yourself with respect and dignity. So I don't think that's the problem. The problem was seeing my mum go through the pain seeing my mum lose 2 husbands, at a point where there was times where she pretended like she wasn't hungry so she could feed me, but realistically we just didn't have any money to buy food. So I think just being angry at the world and the situation that I was raised in, not necessarily for myself, but for my mum, that definitely has carried on to where I am now, where I am the most successful I've ever been in my entire life. And yet I'm not at a point yet where I can take my mum out of that hole. I pulled myself out of that hole, but I know my mum's still living there deep down, and I'm not in a position yet where I can pull her out of that and give her the world, which I think if you were a young man, that's kind of the biggest dream you can have, is to save your family.
I mean, a little bit more sort of on your upbringing and stuff like that. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. We spoke about it on our first take, but like, can you sort of give us a little bit more? I know you've only just recently spoken about it 10 minutes ago, but sort of go over some of the conditions, some of the situations that you're in, the good and the bad, from the van to that flight to Hamilton Island.
Yeah, wow. How deep do you want me to go?
I want you to be authentic.
I think the deepest part of that was definitely in my van. So if in case you guys aren't following along, like I ran away from home and I bought a van and I lived in my van for the better part of my late teenage years. And it sounds a bit gay. Like, I'm just going to say it, that's just who I am. It sounds a bit gay, but men are lonely. Like, we don't have, unless you have someone like what we have, like our brotherhood, we are lonely creatures. Like, we don't get the attention that we necessarily want. Not that we need it, not that it's a good thing if we do get it. I think it can definitely pull away from our masculine side. But yeah, I was in my early pubescent years where I needed the most support, and I was pushing myself aside and isolating myself because it was more comfortable for me to be alone and with my thoughts than to come out and talk to someone and say, hey man, I'm actually really struggling today. I just need someone to talk to for half an hour. Your question was, what was the highs and lows? Well, I think the lowest point was definitely talking to myself at 1 a.m, being like, it's okay, I can get myself through this moment. Like, this is a moment of my life. I'm in a van, I've got no money, I can't fill it up with diesel, I can't go buy food, like I'm stealing food from Woolies and Coles. Like, that was definitely the lowest point I've experienced. But to flip that around, go to a more positive side, one of the highest feelings since, I guess, pulling myself out of my deep hole that I was in as a young teenage boy, I've taken my mum on a few trips where it's been the most intense relationship that we've been able to have, like the most motherly and son bond, which was definitely a unique experience because I don't think I really had that after the age of 12 when I kind of became a bit more independent. So that was definitely a very big high, was being able to reconnect with my mum on that type of level. But most of the thing is just like buying a jet ski, buying a boat. That it's not necessarily the materialistic side of things, but it's the young Riley that was obsessed with scuba diving and obsessed with spearfishing and obsessed with being in the ocean, that buying my boat and buying my jet ski has enabled me to do. Like, if I'm having a shit day, I just go and take my jet ski out into the middle of the ocean, just go jump in the middle of the ocean. Young Riley could only have dreamed of having that, and now I can just get up and do it this afternoon if I wanted to.
And look, not everyone's going to know what your driveway at home looks like. It is quite... Just how many vehicles, motor vehicles, water vehicles do you have in total?
Oh, I don't know. I got Commodore, I got Land Cruiser, I got a Triton, I got the truck, the 2 Bobcats, 2 Chippers, boat, jet ski. We're already at 10. I'll just leave it at 10.
But like leading like back to what you were saying, sort of that young Riley inside of you, do you feel like, because I know you don't use the stuff nearly as much as sort of
no,
what you do.
definitely not.
Do you feel a lot of those purchases were because you lived such a long time of your life having nothing, always being told no, and you're finally in a position where you're like, I don't have to say no, like I can do this, and then you sort of go over the top and you indulge in it because you sort of have the mindset of scarcity. You're like this might go away one day.
It's the mindset of scarcity, but it's also the mindset of abundance. Like it's the yin and the yang. Like yes, I've never had this before. I've never had a boat before, so I want to go and buy a nice boat. But it's also the mindset of I worked hard. I'm gonna go buy a boat. Yes, it uses up a majority of the chunk of my money, but I'm just gonna continue working hard because I know I'm gonna make more money. But yeah, in terms of actually going out and using it.
Not as much.
No, it was definitely a purchase to fill a hole that is not fillable.
Yeah. There's something you said earlier. You said you're sort of trying to spend a bit more time figuring out who Riley is, sort of stepping away from Bush Boys a little bit, just so you can sort of focus on yourself. What are you wanting to find? What are you hoping to find? What are you stepping away from your business in order for yourself?
I genuinely just want to find my purpose. I know that my purpose is to be a father, and I know my purpose is to raise a family in a godly manner and to have a safe house and a safe place for anyone that's going through anything that they can. Like my door's going to be always open. You know, if you knock on the door at 1 a.m. and you need a place to sleep, like go sleep in the room. You know, I'll take the couch, but I'm only 24, 23. Sorry, I'm getting old.
I'm very old.
Like, I feel like I missed out on my teenage life. My teenage life was survival, and now my 20s is grind. Mm-hmm. So I really think my life trajectory is going to take off when I'm like in my 30s and I'm having kids and having a family. That's where I think my true purpose will come out. But in the meantime, it was like, okay, I use my 20s to build my future. But I don't want to be 30 and filthy rich, but be a poor dad. And when I say poor dad, I mean not being there for my children, not being able to have patience. Like I said earlier, like I'm still a very angry person. I'm still very angry at the world, angry at my situation, and I don't want to be lashing out at my kids for no reason because I didn't work on myself when I was 20. I don't know if that's me just being immature because I am young, and that will just come, or if I've kind of missed the boat on that end. Now I have to really double down and work hard on making sure that that's something that I don't bring into my family.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. So pretty much what you're telling me is that for a long time you've sort of seen the money and the success as the be-all and end-all, and now sort of finding who the authentic Riley is, you're sort of realising it's not just the money, it's about having a family, coming closer to God.
No, because I know I can make money anywhere. I know if I packed up and reset again, say in America or in Europe, I can make money. It's more of, yeah, to a degree, it is actually what you said. I need to find what I wake up every morning for. At the moment, I wake up in the morning and I know I have to go to work because I have people that work for me and they have families and they have to feed their families and they have to feed themselves, and I have a responsibility to make sure that they have work and they can feed their family. But I know that that's not my purpose in life. My purpose isn't to be there to make them have an income.
And it's been awesome because I've seen, especially sort of in the last few weeks, just in our conversations with each other, it has started to shift. It has sort of changed from those boy-like things where it's all about money, cars, stuff like that, and now it's starting to move into like the most important things about authenticity, about being
Yeah.
real, sort of figuring out who you actually are. So that's going to be the whole reason behind this podcast, behind the podcast series. So it's about being authentic, sort of coming together, actually having these chats where people can actually be real. Like today, I'll take the spotlight away from Riley for a second. But it's like we sort of filmed our first little
Social experiment.
social experiments for some moments in the shoes, a little bit of a knockoff of the podcast version. It's pretty much just heading down to Mooloolaba, and we just got some milk crates, got the mic, got the camera set up, and we just sat there, yelled out at people, politely of course, making jokes of them coming over and just sort of sharing 2-minute conversations. And just in the couple of hours we did that, it's quite incredible to see, like, if you get off your phone, if you actually talk to people, if you actually try and be yourself, be authentic, the people you're going to meet. Like, one gentleman stuck out for me in particular. I'm a massive travel person, and he just happens to run his own big adventure travel business, and he's flying out on Monday to go do a big tour for the orangutans in Uganda. I'm just like, I think people can learn so much from just going out talking to people and just taking that time to just realize who they are. Because as Luke Belmar said, it's like authenticity is 10 times higher than the frequency of love. If you're, I don't know how to put it, like if you're not going to be authentic, like what are you doing? Like you've got to be yourself, and you've got to not live in other people's narratives and what they want you to do.
Wow. I like that. Not live in other people's narratives. Yeah, I think a lot of us get caught up in the opinion that other people have of us that they actually don't. Like, I am unapologetically myself to a T. If I'm going to offend you, then I'm going to offend you. If you're black, I'm going to call you what black people are called. But yeah, I definitely agree with the statement that you made as authenticity as being your highest frequency.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Why?
A prime example is my actual young teenage years trying to fit in. You know, I was homeschooled. I got bullied for being homeschooled. I went back to high school for what would have been 3 months. And I wasn't authentic, you know. I wasn't being myself. I was a young teenage boy trying to fit in, trying to be with the cool kids, trying to be a sports player, like a soccer player or a basketball player, or be something that I wasn't. And I was never able to maintain that trajectory of my lie, I guess you could say. It was a lie to myself, but it was mainly a lie to other people, being like, oh yeah, this is who I am, when it's not really. And I think a lot of people, they build that barrier for themselves, and then they find themselves having conflicted.
So, sorry to interrupt, guys. The camera decided to cut out. We can't remember exactly what we spoke about in between, so we're just going to resume from here.
Me, especially as a child, going through what I went through, it opened up avenues that mainstream school and mainstream curriculum would potentially shut down.
So do you believe that there is a problem with the mainstream schooling system?
This is going to get me cancelled before I even become someone. Yes, definitely. I think it's completely useless. Like, I've got most people would call it undiagnosed ADHD. I just think I'm just really energetic for no reason. But say I'm in class and I'm causing a ruckus and I'm disturbing everybody. Why would you keep me in on my lunch break to write lines? I think instead of doing that, go send the kid out into the footy field and say, go run 30 laps. Because if I had to go run 30 laps, then for the rest of the afternoon, I'll just be tired. I've used up all my energy. I wouldn't be distracting to the classmates. But instead they say, sit inside, write lines, write down 200 lines of why you should not be a distraction. Mm-hmm. And then for the rest of the day, I haven't had my lunch break. I haven't gone and kicked the footy. So now I'm just over energetic. And because I've already got the first mark against my name of being a disturbance, by the time 3 o'clock rolls around, I'm already in the principal's office explaining to him why I'm so energetic, even though I didn't go out and play footy. Like, it's just a backwards system. It doesn't work. On top of that, I'm completely against the LGBT community, and I hate gay people, and I hate transsexual, whatever the clusterfuck you want to call it. I'm completely against that. I don't want to raise my children in that environment, and I don't want my...
Look, I know the why, but tell everyone at home, like, why? Why is this your stance? Why is this what you believe in? Is it something that, like, you see your favorite influencers posting about it being like, this isn't cool? Or is there sort of things, whether it be spiritually sort of, or just, it just goes against what you believe?
Definitely spiritual. This is going to sound really wacky, but I genuinely believe I have a gift from God with the ability of discernment. What that means to me is the ability to see what's going on in my surroundings and actively choose how I'm going to react to that, and especially to things that people mostly turn a blind eye to. And so spiritually, why I don't want anything to do with that whole narrative is who I am as a person. Like, I am against the system from day one. You know, I've never been able to accept authority. I've never been able to bow down to basic traffic rules like stopping at a stop sign. You know, like, I'll dump that into second gear and drift the corner, and I'd lose my license because I've done that. And it's not a ego thing. It's just I have never been able to submit down to authority except for the be-all and end-all father authority figure, which for me is Jesus. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's just what came to my head.
No, that's fine. But I mean, you mentioned Jesus. I mean, how important is Jesus in your life?
Let me be 100% honest here. I walked away from God. I walked away from God in my teenage years. I ended up actually going to Bible college. I got a scholarship to go to Bible college, and I went there for a better part of 6 months and ended up just walking out of the classroom one day and never coming back. And I walked away from God on my own terms. Obviously, I was raised and brought up in the church and walked away on my own terms. And my life got to a point where it was either I keep going on this downwards trajectory, ending up in alcohol and drugs and crime and going down that path, or I go back to what I know which was true, and I know that there was a knocking on my heart for me to turn around and come back to God. And I did that on my own. I think the biggest thing was I grew up in it, and so I believed it was pushed on me as a child. And so I wanted to make my own decision to come back to God. And I came back on my own slowly. And to be honest, where I am now is the strongest and most deepest connection what you would say you'd have with God. And definitely most spiritually filled at my moment right now.
I mean, and how important is it to continue to have that relationship with God?
Well, it definitely helps with my anger. I touched on earlier about how I struggle with patience, and I struggle with... I believe I have such high expectations of myself, so I put those high expectations on other people, and if they don't reach that expectation, the punishment that I would give myself, I lash out at myself, I'd lash out at them, which they don't deserve because I've put that on them. What's the word? In my head, like it doesn't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so the strength of having, like, how important it is to have God now for me is to be able to have that little tug on my heart, knowing that that's not the right thing to do. Don't lash out. Don't. Like, in the Bible, you have your fruit, what's called the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, peace, patience, kindness, gratefulness, graciousness, and self-control, and a whole others. But yeah, one of them being patience and kindness. And You know, who am I to call myself a Christian and then go home and yell and abuse my girlfriend? Like, that's why it's so important to have a Christ-centered life, because when I am getting home and I can feel my anger building up, and I'm sitting in my car and I can just say a prayer to God, be like, Lord, take away this anger, take away this, how I'm feeling right now, take away this pain and this struggle that I'm dealing with. My girlfriend doesn't deserve this. My girlfriend doesn't need me to come home from work and open the door and rain a hailstorm. Take away this pain and let me walk in there and love my partner how I'm called to love. And especially like what we were talking about earlier is about being a father, and my purpose is I don't want to be going in there and setting that role model and that example towards my children.
That's awesome. Carrying on from that, I mean,
It's our first podcast, guys. We're running out of stuff to yabber on about.
Same thing happened. I'm there waiting for you to say something. I'm waiting there. I'm like, waiting.
That awkward silence on the first date.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm like. If I start talking, I'm like, we might get somewhere. But look, I'm going to keep that in. It's a part of the journey. Like, personally for me, and I know this is a big thing for you as well, I was scared to start this podcast, start the content journey, because I've got such a high standard of like, it is going to be my autism as well. It's like, I want everything to be perfect. And if it isn't going to be perfect, I don't want to put it out there because people are going to look at it, people are going to laugh at it, people are going to judge it. But in my newfound appreciation for authenticity, I've got to take the flaws and I've got to realise the people that have done this before me that I look up to, they've been in the same position. And if there is someone listening to this that could be thinking the exact same, they've just heard a 20-second break of no talking, us just being like, we got no idea what to say. But it's a part of the journey. I think with everything that we're talking about here, your journey is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be set in stone. There are going to be challenges that are going to happen. We've had the audio cut out. We've had the camera stop working. And look, normally it's like I get hot and sweaty. It's like, oh no, it's not perfect. I don't want to put it out in the world. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be made fun of. But it's like, no, it's like you just got to do it, because we are going to keep doing this. You're going to be seeing me all over social media, and in a week's time, no one's going to care that we've just had that little markup. In 1,000 episodes' time, it's not going to matter. We're going to have all our sponsors sitting around us, and it's going to be awesome. But I mean, if we're to sort of finish, I'd like to ask you 3 last questions just to sort of finish it up.
Sure.
Can you please take me to the happiest and best moment/day of your life?
This is going to be a curveball, a big curveball. And it's going to lead into the next question. This is actually really good.
Unfortunately, he knows what the next question's going to be.
The happiest day of my life, and we haven't discussed this prior, so this is a pure, honest, 100% reaction.
Yes, and he only knows what the next question is from this morning's content we filmed.
Yes. The happiest day of my life was falling in love again.
With who?
With my partner that I have now. For such a long time, I had a relationship and it ended. And for such a long time, I was in such a dark area of my life. And never once did I think I was going to be able to fall in love again. And it's such a cliche thing. Like, I was bloody 17, 18. Like, I was just a teenage boy going through a heartbreak. But that genuinely was such a dark point in my life. So being able to fall in love again with the girl that is in love with God as well, and we're running the exact same race, and yeah, it's such a grateful feeling I have that the Lord has gifted me the ability to fall in love again, because I didn't think that was a possibility.
You may have just mentioned it, but I was going to be like, why do you think, how do you think you were able to fall back in love again? Was it because you were on the same path? Like, was there a specific moment? I want you to take us to that feeling, take us to that moment.
It was a moment of pulling down my barriers. You know, I've got such high rock, cement wall, defense mechanism. I got hurt to a point. Like, you see those Instagram reels, like bros battling demons in the gym. Like, it got to a point where I was so unhealthily addicted to going to the gym. Like, I'd go to the gym at 3 a.m. and just scoop in 3 loads of pre-workout and just bench press or deadlift.
And you'd go for a long run late at night.
Yeah. But it became unhealthy to a point where I was deadlifting on purpose, a point where it was hurting me. It was physically hurting my body, but I was wanting to feel something, and the pain was something that I could feel. So yeah, it was very unhealthy.
And would that be describing the worst time in your life?
No, definitely not. But what your question was is how did that feel, being able to fall in love again? It was like all of that weight that I was carrying for 2 years just fell off.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. And mind you, I found my partner when I was in my prime that I had ever been in, if that makes sense. Like, I was the fittest I'd ever been. I was the most... I'd finally started making a little bit of money in my business. I was jacked. I was very fit. You had great cheese on my abs. It was that sharp. So it was almost like, wow, all that pain I went through and all that, everything I endured was finally worth it. And that was definitely the greatest feeling of accomplishment.
Well, now you already know I'm going to ask. Now, what was the worst moment in your life? What was the time that you thought, like, it cannot get any lower? You may have considered, like, why am I even here?
There's definitely been more of that than the good side. I remember there was one time I'd gotten in this fight with my mum, and I know it got very physical, and like it was very like pushy and shovey, you know, and I pushed her and I hurt her, and then I ran off because of my guilt and because of my shame, and I was running down the street crying and bawling my eyes out and praying to God, saying, why have you left me? Why have you brought this into my life? And again, touching on that anger point, I think that's where it's all stemmed from, is definitely that low point in my life of physically actually hurting my mum and just utter shame and disgrace. And yeah, it was such a traumatic event for me, because I don't think I would ever forgive myself. And I know I was a teenage boy, and like there was hormones raging, and I was just so, I don't know, like overreactive. But it's just like I don't think I could ever forgive myself for that. So I think that's definitely a low point in my life where I don't think I could ever be able to let that part go.
And to wrap up, If you can look directly into that camera there and you can say something to someone that could be listening, one piece of advice, the most important thing that you could share with someone. If it was the last thing you were to ever say in this world, what would it be?
You need to only you've got your back. You need to believe in yourself and your ability to achieve what you want to achieve. So over